Welcome to the PharmaVOICE Editor's Take video series, filmed live at the 2011 DIA Annual Meeting in Chicago. Hosted by Taryn Grome, editor of PharmaVOICE. In this session, Taryn meets with Neal Mantick, Senior Director, Global Observational Research, PAREXEL.
Hi, Neal. Can you tell us what some of the latest challenges moving from development to commercialization are?
Well, it's a common fact of life among biopharmaceutical companies that we're living in a totally new healthcare world. That dynamic is going to continue to evolve over time as companies try to introduce more innovative products, but within an era of cost containment within healthcare. That leaves the door open for other types of research studies that the regulatory authorities, reimbursement agencies are requiring in the post-marketing setting. And rather than conducting randomized controlled studies, observational research or real-world studies are becoming much more common and required by many of these audiences that the biopharmaceutical companies try to satisfy.
To follow up, how are observational studies different from clinical trials from a regulatory perspective?
Well, when people think about randomized clinical studies, they're often referred to as the gold standard of clinical research. Observational studies are intended for a different audience, mainly for a reimbursement audience, physician audience, and to deliver different types of data. So therefore, there's a common myth that observational studies are somewhat simpler or less complex, that the design is easier and the implementation is easier than a randomized controlled study. I tend to think that it really requires a different set of problem-solving skills when you think about working within a real-world environment. Working with physicians after market approval, they tend to follow their own clinical practice. That clinical practice can vary from country to country, and therefore the data is not as clean as it might be or as consistent as it might be from a randomized clinical study. All of that has to be taken into account as you're designing an observational study, deciding what type of endpoints you'll be collecting, and what type of analyses will be done. Again, you keep the audience in mind. You now have a different audience, regulatory, reimbursement, physician organizations, and you want to begin proving the value that a product has in the real world beyond what was demonstrated within a randomized clinical study to gain market approval.
Additional Editor's Take videos, as well as podcasts, white papers, webinars, and more, are available in the resources area at www.pharmavoice.com.